It began as a hushed conversation behind Kensington Palace walls, one that aides tried to downplay and courtiers quickly silenced. But the look on Princess Catherine's foe's face as she exited that private meeting said everything the palace couldn't. Something was wrong, and it involved Charlotte. What was first dismissed as a rumor soon turned into a royal firestorm, now confirmed by the very people who fought to protect it. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the whispers seemed no different from the countless rumors that circulate through royal corridors every year. Yet this time was different. The atmosphere inside palace circles had shifted in a way that even experienced staff found difficult to ignore. A private meeting had been called involving Catherine, Prince William, and several senior palace advisors. The gathering appeared routine on the surface, but those familiar with royal operations quickly sensed that something far more serious was unfolding behind closed doors. Conversations became shorter, faces grew more tense. Long-standing routines suddenly changed without explanation. The silence itself became impossible to ignore. Throughout the day, members of staff reportedly noticed an unusual sense of unease spreading through the household. Individuals who normally moved with confidence appeared distracted. Questions went unanswered. Requests for clarification were met with polite but firm refusals. The palace, an institution built on discipline and control, seemed determined to keep whatever had happened away from public scrutiny. Yet secrecy often creates more questions than answers, and those questions were multiplying by the hour. Then came reports that Princess Charlotte had been left deeply upset following a recent royal gathering. Details remained scarce, but concern began spreading among those closest to the family. What had happened during that gathering? Why was everyone suddenly so careful with their words? Why were senior figures behaving as though they were trying to contain a problem before it escaped their control? The deeper people looked, the more troubling the situation appeared. According to insiders, aides received unusually strict instructions not to discuss the matter. Such levels of caution were rare, especially concerning an event that had not occurred in public view. The decision only fueled speculation that something significant had taken place. Catherine's emotional state added to those concerns. Normally composed under pressure, she reportedly emerged from the private discussions, visibly shaken. Those who saw her afterward described a woman carrying a burden she could not easily hide. As the day faded into evening, attention quietly shifted toward William. Sources suggested he spent considerable time with Charlotte, offering comfort and reassurance during what appeared to be an emotionally difficult moment. For many observers, that detail spoke volumes. William had always been fiercely protective of his children, and his actions seemed to confirm that whatever had happened had affected Charlotte more deeply than anyone initially realized. Perhaps most unsettling were claims that concerns had been building for weeks. Small incidents, overlooked comments, and subtle changes in behavior were now being re-examined through a completely different lens. What once appeared insignificant suddenly looked like pieces of a much larger puzzle. And, as palace insiders slowly began connecting those pieces, a disturbing picture started to emerge. One that threatened to expose tensions that had been hidden beneath the surface for far longer than anyone imagined. But the chilling truth wasn't just about Charlotte's tears. It was about who had caused them, and why the palace suddenly feared the consequences. For years, Princess Charlotte had been carefully protected from the harsher realities of royal life. Then one conversation shattered that protection in a matter of seconds. The days following the private concerns surrounding Charlotte had already left a cloud hanging over the royal household. Questions were circulating quietly behind closed doors, and while no one was speaking openly, there was a growing sense that something important had happened. The answers, according to several palace insiders, could be traced back to a recent royal gathering, attended by senior members of the family. What was intended to be a routine occasion had begun like so many others before it. Familiar faces gathered together, conversations flowed naturally, protocol was observed. Everything appeared calm, yet beneath that calm surface, tensions were already beginning to stir. Charlotte reportedly arrived in high spirits. Those around her noticed the confidence she carried, and the ease with which she interacted with others. She had spent years growing into her public role, under the careful guidance of William, and Catherine. While still young, she had earned a reputation for composure far beyond her age. Family members often spoke about her determination, her confidence, and her growing understanding of royal responsibility. For Charlotte, this gathering was simply another opportunity to be part of the family she trusted. But according to whispers that later spread through palace circles, the atmosphere shifted suddenly. No one could quite agree on the exact moment it happened. Some believed it began during a casual exchange. Others insisted it emerged from a comment that was intended to be harmless, but landed very differently than expected. What remained consistent across every version of the story was the reaction that followed. The mood changed. Conversations became strained. People who had been speaking freely moments earlier became noticeably cautious. At the center of those accounts were allegations that Queen Camilla made remarks that left Charlotte embarrassed in front of those present. The exact wording has never been publicly confirmed, but insiders claimed the impact was immediate. What may have seemed insignificant to some carried a very different weight for a young princess, still learning how to navigate the complicated world around her. In a family where every gesture, every comment, and every interaction carries meaning, even a few words can leave lasting marks. Witnesses reportedly noticed uncomfortable reactions among staff members nearby. Some exchanged brief glances. Others suddenly found reasons to focus elsewhere. It was not the kind of response that follows an ordinary family conversation. It was the kind of reaction that appears when people sense they have just witnessed something they should not have witnessed at all. No confrontation followed. No public disagreement erupted. Yet the silence that settled afterward seemed louder than any argument could have been. For Charlotte, the effect appeared immediate. The confidence that had defined her earlier presence seemed to disappear. According to those familiar with the situation, she became noticeably withdrawn as the gathering continued. The excitement she had carried into the event faded into quiet distance. Those closest to her recognized the change almost instantly. It was subtle enough to avoid public attention, but significant enough to concern the people who knew her best. As word of the incident slowly circulated through palace corridors, discussions began taking place among insiders who rarely agreed on anything. Some believed the situation would pass quickly. Others feared it represented something much deeper. The more people talked, the more the story seemed to grow. Questions replaced certainty. Rumors replaced explanations. And before long, what had started as a private family moment was becoming something far more serious. Because while many hoped Charlotte would simply move on from the experience, those closest to her were beginning to realize that the emotional impact ran far deeper than anyone had first imagined. What seemed like a brief exchange would soon trigger an emotional reaction that nobody inside the palace expected. Those closest to Charlotte knew something had changed long before the public ever heard a word about it. In the days following the gathering, the questions surrounding Charlotte did not disappear. If anything, they grew more difficult to ignore. The incident that many hoped would quickly fade into memory seemed to leave a deeper mark than anyone anticipated. What had first appeared to be a brief moment of discomfort was now developing into something far more serious. Behind the privacy of palace walls, subtle changes began emerging, and those changes were noticed first by the people who spent the most time around her. Charlotte, once known for her confidence and lively spirit, reportedly became unusually quiet. It was not an overnight transformation, nor was it dramatic enough to attract public attention. Instead, it unfolded gradually, almost silently. Conversations became shorter. Moments of enthusiasm became less frequent. The ease she once carried seemed increasingly difficult to find. For a young royal who had spent years adapting to extraordinary expectations, the shift felt significant. Those closest to her sensed that she was carrying something she could not easily express. No one noticed this more than Catherine. As a mother, she understood her daughter in ways few others could. According to insiders, Catherine quickly recognized changes that others might have overlooked. Small differences in behavior began adding up. Moments that once brought excitement now seemed to bring hesitation. Confidence, that had appeared natural only weeks earlier, seemed replaced by uncertainty. Reports suggest Catherine spent increasing amounts of time checking on Charlotte, offering reassurance while quietly trying to understand the full extent of what was troubling her. William's concern grew alongside hers. Protective by nature and deeply devoted to his children, he reportedly found it increasingly difficult to ignore what was happening. Those familiar with the family described a father caught between frustration and heartbreak. Every parent wants to shield their child from pain, yet some wounds cannot simply be removed. They must be worked through, understood, and healed. William reportedly became more attentive than ever, determined to ensure Charlotte never felt alone, while navigating whatever emotional burden she was carrying. Household staff began noticing the changes as well. While discretion remained the rule, whispers quietly emerged among those who interacted with the family daily. Several insiders described a visibly upset young princess, who seemed weighed down by something she could not fully explain. There were no dramatic scenes, no public displays, and no obvious signs of rebellion. What concerned people was precisely the opposite. Charlotte appeared to be withdrawing inward, carrying her emotions quietly, rather than expressing them openly. As concern increased, family routines reportedly began shifting around her. Adjustments were made discreetly and without announcement. More attention was devoted to creating stability. Certain obligations became less pressing. Private family time took on greater importance. The goal, according to those familiar with the situation, was simple: protect Charlotte, while giving her the space she needed to recover her confidence. At the same time, efforts were made to shield her from additional attention. Palace officials understood how quickly speculation could spread. Once a story gained momentum, the fewer people who knew, the easier it would be to contain. Yet secrecy often creates its own problems. The absence of answers encouraged questions. Questions became rumors. Rumors became discussions. Before long, conversations about Charlotte's well-being were quietly circulating through palace circles, each version carrying new assumptions and growing concern. The deeper those conversations spread, the more impossible it became to dismiss the situation as a temporary setback. People began asking what had truly happened, and whether the effects might reach further than anyone initially believed. While Charlotte fought privately to regain her footing, another emotional storm was beginning to form elsewhere within the royal family. And unlike Charlotte, the person at the center of that storm was no longer willing to remain quiet. As Charlotte struggled to recover, another royal was finding it harder and harder to remain silent. Prince William had tolerated years of royal tensions, but this time, according to insiders, the situation felt painfully personal. By the time whispers about Charlotte's emotional struggle had spread through palace corridors, the situation was no longer being viewed as a simple family disagreement. What had started as concern for a young princess was gradually evolving into something far more explosive. Behind closed doors, questions continued to surface. New details emerged. Different accounts were compared. And with every conversation, William found himself confronting a possibility that became harder and harder to ignore. If the reports were true, the hurt Charlotte carried was not the result of a misunderstanding. It was the consequence of words and actions that had left a lasting wound. Sources close to palace circles suggested that William gradually learned additional details about what had happened during the gathering. Information that had initially been vague suddenly became more specific. Conversations that once seemed harmless were now being viewed through a very different lens. The more he heard, the more difficult it became to dismiss the incident as an unfortunate moment that would simply pass with time. Instead, a troubling pattern appeared to be emerging, one that forced him to confront concerns he had been trying to keep under control. For years, William had navigated the complicated realities of royal life. He had witnessed disagreements, rivalries, and moments of tension that naturally arise within any family living under constant public scrutiny. He understood compromise. He understood patience. More importantly, he understood the importance of maintaining stability for the institution he would one day lead. But this situation felt different. This was not a disagreement over duty, protocol, or public appearances. This involved his daughter, and according to those familiar with his thinking, that distinction changed everything. As Charlotte continued struggling to regain her confidence, William's frustration reportedly intensified. The contrast was impossible to ignore. While one side of the story focused on reputation and perception, the other focused on a young girl trying to understand why she had been made to feel small. That reality struck at the heart of William's deepest priorities. Long before he was the future king, he was a father, and every report suggesting Charlotte had been hurt only strengthened his determination to protect her. Senior aides reportedly recognized the growing tension almost immediately. Efforts were made to calm emotions and prevent the situation from escalating further. Advisors understood the risks involved if the disagreement expanded beyond private discussions. They encouraged patience. They recommended caution. Some hoped time would allow emotions to settle naturally. Yet every attempt to lower the temperature appeared to collide with the same obstacle. William's concern was no longer theoretical. It had become deeply personal. Inside royal offices, reports of tense conversations began circulating. Meetings that were expected to focus on routine matters reportedly drifted back toward the growing controversy. Questions were asked. Clarifications were sought. Frustrations emerged. While nobody publicly acknowledged the conflict, the strain was becoming increasingly difficult to hide. People who normally worked together seamlessly now found themselves navigating an atmosphere filled with uncertainty. What made the situation even more significant was the growing visibility of family divisions. Those divisions were rarely spoken about openly, but they could be felt beneath the surface. Different perspectives emerged regarding how the issue should be handled. Some favored quiet reconciliation. Others believed stronger action was necessary. The disagreement itself was becoming a reflection of a much larger struggle about loyalty, responsibility, and the limits of forgiveness. Meanwhile, William remained focused on one objective above all others. According to insiders, he was determined to defend Charlotte and ensure that her well-being remained the priority. Whatever discomfort that created elsewhere within the family seemed increasingly irrelevant. The more he reflected on what had happened, the more convinced he became that silence was no longer an acceptable option. And as that conviction hardened, the palace found itself moving toward a moment many had desperately hoped to avoid. And when William finally confronted the issue directly, the reaction inside the palace was immediate. No one found themselves under greater pressure than King Charles, who suddenly faced a conflict between his wife and his heir. The moment William chose to address the situation directly, the growing tension inside the royal household entered an entirely new phase. What had once been a private concern surrounding Charlotte's well-being was now becoming a matter that reached the highest levels of the monarchy. The emotional weight of the dispute was no longer confined to private conversations between parents and advisors. It had reached the desk of the king himself. And for Charles, the challenge was unlike any he had faced before. This was not merely a disagreement between family members. It was a collision between two people occupying central positions within his life, each representing a different responsibility that he could not simply set aside. According to palace insiders, Charles soon began receiving detailed briefings regarding the growing dispute. Advisors reportedly kept him informed as new concerns emerged and tensions intensified. What troubled many around him was not just the incident itself, but the chain reaction it appeared to be creating. Every new conversation seemed to generate additional complications. Every attempt to settle concerns uncovered new frustrations. The issue had become larger than anyone initially expected, and Charles found himself increasingly drawn into its center. Those closest to the king understood the delicate position he occupied. On one side stood Queen Camilla, his wife and closest companion, through some of the most difficult years of his life. On the other stood Prince William, the future of the monarchy, and the man who would one day inherit the immense responsibility Charles now carried. Loyalty pulled in different directions. Duty demanded balance. Yet balance was becoming harder to maintain with each passing day. Senior advisors reportedly warned Charles that the consequences could extend far beyond a single family disagreement. Their concern centered on the possibility that unresolved tensions might deepen existing divisions within the royal household. Public confidence in the monarchy has always depended on an image of stability, even during periods of private difficulty. The longer the situation continued, the greater the risk that those private difficulties could eventually become impossible to contain. As a result, significant efforts were made to prevent any public fallout. Discussions remained private. Communications were carefully managed. Those involved understood the importance of avoiding unnecessary attention. Yet beneath the surface, the pressure continued to build. Silence was preserving appearances, but it was not solving the underlying problem. The emotions involved were too personal, and too deeply rooted to disappear through careful management alone. Sources suggest Charles attempted to mediate the situation privately. Determined to restore calm, he reportedly sought conversations that could ease tensions and encourage understanding. But mediation becomes far more difficult when emotions have already hardened. Each side viewed the situation through a different lens. And with Charlotte's well-being at the center of the dispute, compromise became increasingly difficult to achieve. The emotional strain soon became evident to those working closest to the king. While Charles had weathered countless public and private challenges throughout his life, this conflict appeared to carry a unique burden. It placed family loyalty, personal relationships, and royal responsibility into direct competition with one another. Every decision risked disappointing someone. Every effort to restore peace seemed to create new complications. Meanwhile, subtle divisions began emerging throughout palace circles. Staff members, advisors, and longtime associates quietly developed differing views about how the situation should be handled. Some sympathized strongly with William's protective stance as a father. Others believed reconciliation should remain the highest priority. No formal sides were declared, yet the growing differences in opinion became increasingly difficult to ignore. As the dispute continued unfolding, larger questions began to emerge about the future balance of power within the royal family. Observers started wondering whether this was simply an isolated conflict or a sign of deeper changes taking place beneath the surface. The monarchy had always relied on unity during moments of difficulty, but unity now seemed more fragile than ever. And while attention remained focused on Charles and the growing divisions around him, another key figure was quietly preparing to influence the course of events in ways few people yet understood. But behind the scenes, Catherine was making decisions that would change the direction of the entire crisis. While others argued, reacted, and maneuvered, Catherine chose a different path, one that would speak louder than any confrontation. As tensions continued spreading through the royal household, many expected Catherine to become an active participant in the growing conflict. After all, she had every reason to be upset. She had watched her daughter struggle through an emotional period that seemed to leave lasting scars. She had witnessed the strain it placed on William. She had seen the uncertainty ripple through the family. Yet while others focused on disagreements, blame, and palace politics, Catherine directed her attention elsewhere. Her priority was not winning an argument. It was helping Charlotte heal. According to those familiar with the situation, Catherine became completely focused on her daughter's well-being. Every decision she made appeared guided by a single question: what would help Charlotte feel secure again? While speculation continued outside the family's inner circle, Catherine reportedly worked quietly and deliberately behind the scenes. Rather than becoming consumed by the controversy itself, she concentrated on rebuilding confidence that had been shaken. It was a response that surprised some observers, but earned deep respect from those closest to the family. A private support system gradually formed around Charlotte. Family members, trusted staff, and those closest to the young princess reportedly worked together to create an environment built on reassurance rather than pressure. The goal was not to erase what had happened, but to prevent it from defining her future. Catherine understood that confidence could not be demanded. It had to be nurtured patiently. Every small step forward mattered. Every moment of encouragement carried weight. As that process unfolded, something unexpected began to happen. The challenge that had threatened to create lasting damage instead brought William, Catherine, and their children even closer together. Insiders described a family becoming more united during adversity, rather than fractured by shared concern transformed into shared purpose. Difficult conversations led to deeper understanding. The emotional struggle that had once isolated Charlotte gradually became something the entire family faced together. Those working within palace circles reportedly took notice. Staff members who observed the family's response often spoke of Catherine's calm leadership during an increasingly turbulent period. While tensions rose elsewhere, she remained focused, steady, and composed. There were no dramatic declarations, no public displays. Instead, there was consistency, quiet determination, an unwillingness to allow crisis to dictate the family's future. For many, That approach became one of the defining stories unfolding behind the scenes. At the same time, public sympathy toward the Wales family appeared to grow. Although the full details remained hidden from public view, people increasingly sensed that the family was navigating a difficult chapter. William and Catherine's reputation as devoted parents strengthened further. The contrast became impossible to ignore. On one side stood the pressures and conflicts associated with royal life. On the other stood a family determined to protect one another despite those pressures. It was a narrative that resonated deeply with many observers. Yet not everyone viewed developments with complete comfort. Behind palace walls, concerns reportedly emerged regarding the monarchy's image. Advisors understood that unresolved tensions carried risks. The longer questions lingered, without answers, the greater the possibility that speculation would continue growing. What began as a private matter now carried implications, reaching far beyond a single-family disagreement. Meanwhile, Catherine's influence quietly strengthened, not through power struggles or public statements, but through the trust she inspired. Her measured response earned admiration from supporters and respect from many within the institution itself. Without seeking attention, she had become a stabilizing force during a period of uncertainty. And while Charlotte slowly began finding her footing again, the larger consequences of the incident continued expanding in unexpected ways. The family might have been healing, but the deeper divisions surrounding the controversy remained unresolved, waiting for the next spark to reignite them. Yet even as Charlotte slowly regained her confidence, the fallout from that day refused to disappear. What began as a deeply personal family matter was now evolving into something much larger. A test of loyalty inside the monarchy itself. The effort to protect Charlotte and restore stability within the Wales family had achieved something important. Slowly, the young princess was beginning to recover. The uncertainty that had followed her for weeks no longer seemed quite as overwhelming. Yet while healing was taking place within one part of the royal household, another process was unfolding elsewhere. The controversy that many hoped would remain private had developed a life of its own. It was no longer simply a story about hurt feelings or family tension. It had become a subject of discussion throughout palace circles, and with every passing day, the divisions surrounding it appeared to deepen. According to insiders, staff members and courtiers increasingly found themselves viewing the situation through very different perspectives. Officially, everyone remained committed to professionalism and discretion. Unofficially, however, opinions were beginning to form. Some believed William's response reflected the instincts of a devoted father determined to protect his child. Others felt the situation required greater restraint to preserve family unity. Few people spoke openly, but silence often conceals powerful disagreements. 22. Beneath the surface, loyalties were quietly taking shape. Those divisions became harder to ignore during royal engagements and public appearances. Although protocol remained intact, observers reportedly noticed a growing tension surrounding interactions among senior figures. Every appearance seemed to generate fresh analysis. Every gesture was examined for hidden meaning. The monarchy has always operated under intense scrutiny, but now that scrutiny felt amplified, people were no longer simply watching what members of the royal family did. They were trying to understand what was happening behind the carefully maintained facade. As a result, speculation among royal commentators intensified. With few confirmed details available, theories multiplied. Some argued the controversy reflected deeper tensions that had existed for years. Others suggested it represented a turning point in relationships that had long appeared stable from the outside. Every commentator seemed to have a different explanation, yet all of them agreed on one thing. The issue had grown far beyond its original scope. At the center of many discussions stood Charlotte herself. What had happened to her raised broader questions about her future role within the monarchy. As one of the younger members of the royal family, she represented part of the institution's future. Her experiences mattered not only to her parents, but also to those thinking about what the monarchy would become in the years ahead. The growing attention surrounding her situation transformed her from a participant in the story into one of its most important symbols. Meanwhile, William's position appeared to strengthen among many supporters. His determination to place Charlotte's well-being above palace politics resonated with those who admired his approach to family life. To them, His actions demonstrated leadership, rooted in personal conviction, rather than convenience. The more the controversy unfolded, the more some viewed him as someone willing to act when those closest to him needed protection. At the same time, difficult questions emerged regarding Camilla's standing within the wider royal structure. While opinions varied significantly, the discussions themselves reflected a larger shift taking place. People were no longer focusing solely on the original incident. They were examining its consequences, its implications, and what it revealed about the relationships shaping the monarchy's future. Caught between these competing pressures was King Charles. The burden resting on his shoulders seemed heavier than ever. Advisors reportedly urged caution. Supporters of different viewpoints pushed for resolution. Expectations grew from every direction. The longer uncertainty persisted, the greater the pressure became for Charles to restore harmony before the divisions widened further. Yet as conversations intensified and loyalties hardened, an unexpected development began emerging behind the scenes. What had once appeared to be a difficult but manageable family dispute was about to take on a significance that few had anticipated. The stakes were no longer limited to personal relationships. They were beginning to touch something far larger, the future direction of the institution itself. Then came the development that transformed a private royal dispute into a defining moment for the future of the crown. By the time the dust began to settle, the monarchy looked very different from the institution that had entered the crisis. The development that had transformed a private family dispute into a defining royal moment left consequences that would not disappear overnight. Weeks earlier, few could have imagined that a single incident involving Princess Charlotte would trigger such a profound chain reaction. What began as concern over a young girl's emotional well-being had exposed deeper tensions, challenged long-standing assumptions, and forced some of the most powerful figures within the monarchy to confront difficult truths. Yet amid the uncertainty and division, one outcome slowly became impossible to ignore. Charlotte was beginning to find her strength again. Those closest to her noticed the change first. The hesitation that had once clouded her confidence gradually started to fade. The quiet sadness that had concerned her parents became less visible with each passing week. Recovery did not happen all at once. It came through small victories, patient encouragement, and the unwavering support of those determined to help her move forward. What made her progress so remarkable was not the speed of her recovery, but the resilience behind it. Charlotte had faced an emotional challenge that many believed would leave a lasting mark. Yet she refused to allow that difficult moment to define who she would become. At the center of that recovery stood William and Catherine. If the crisis had tested their family, it had also strengthened it. Throughout the turmoil, they remained focused on the same goal, protecting their children and preserving the values they believed mattered most. The challenges they faced did not drive them apart. Instead, they emerged more united than ever. Their shared determination became one of the defining stories of the entire ordeal. While others debated power, reputation, and responsibility, they focused on trust, support, and family. For King Charles, the experience carried a different lesson. According to palace insiders, the conflict forced him to reflect deeply on the damage that unresolved family divisions can cause. The pressures of monarchy often demand difficult choices, but this situation reminded him that emotional wounds can spread far beyond the people directly involved. What began as a disagreement eventually touched nearly every corner of the royal household. The consequences served as a powerful reminder that unity cannot be preserved through silence alone. It requires understanding, accountability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. The crisis also sparked broader conversations about the responsibility of protecting the next generation of royals. Charlotte's experience became a symbol of something larger than herself. It highlighted the unique challenges faced by young members of the monarchy as they grow up under extraordinary expectations. Many within royal circles reportedly viewed the situation as a wake-up call, a reminder that tradition must never come at the expense of emotional well-being. As time passed, admiration for Charlotte's resilience continued to grow. What could have become a story of lasting hurt gradually transformed into a story of determination. Her ability to recover inspired many who followed the unfolding drama. Yet while she moved forward, the effects of the controversy remained visible elsewhere. Relationships within the royal family had changed. Some bonds had strengthened. Others had become more complicated. Trust had been tested. Loyalties had been questioned. Certain wounds had healed, but others remained beneath the surface. Perhaps the most significant impact involved the future of the House of Windsor itself. The crisis exposed how quickly personal matters can evolve into institutional challenges. It demonstrated the delicate balance between family and duty, tradition and change, public responsibility and private emotion. Those lessons will likely influence decisions for years to come. The monarchy survived the storm, but it emerged from it with a greater awareness of the challenges that lie ahead. Because in the end, this story was never just about one painful moment. It was about the future of a young princess, the determination of her parents, and a royal family, forced to confront the consequences of wounds that can no longer remain hidden. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.